How do you think about discrimination in aging? This is a topic that's only started to be talked about publicly, but we're starting to see some real data that suggests that when people in certain economies reach a certain age, getting a job is just getting harder. Keeping a job is harder, and they're being viewed through a lens of being filtered out. It feels like it's a big and emerging issue that's only going to get worse. I'm curious what your research and what your view on this is.
Yeah, so first of all, it's also even worse if you're a woman. It's called literally a double jeopardy. That if you're old and you're a woman, you literally are even more challenged by the discriminations related to age. Now, this discrimination has been coded in 1969 by Professor Butler. It's a very young discrimination. Let me put the quotes around this thing. We haven't solved sexism, racism, but more or less we know what they're about. The understanding there is this discrimination related to age is still very very early. Just look, for example, the classic DNA department inside organization, and typically age is not yet coded as a discrimination by many of them. So this first thing allows already you to understand how far we are to have an understanding of a discrimination related to aging. Hence, how to solve it. It's literally uh, a longer way in the journey. The point is that this discrimination is obviously the discrimination that affects us all. It's so deeply rooted in our cultural background and heritage. We keep on making joke every day about the age, joke that we were not allowed to do anymore about, for example, again, sex or race, which has become something very evident to everybody as such a bad thing. If you just joke about age, nobody says anything because it's just part of our, fun. Just check out the comics on the newspapers, and this is something, just a silly example of what is there in the background. Discrimination is very bad from many perspective. From a health perspective, is even bad. It's causing literally damages to your cardiovascular system. It's generating effects on the psyche of the people, and the depression related, for example, to discrimination on age is one of the issues that we have to face in the everyday life. Do we see a future, a more positive future? That could be a question. We do, because I think this is becoming a narrative, given the fact that people is getting older, and let me say influential people is getting older. Just make an example. You see probably the photo models of the 80s and the 90s that we all celebrated like icons of beauty, which are now in their late 50s, early 60s, and they both realize how they become a different kind of beauty. And now they are promoting that different kind of beauty, realizing that sometimes maybe they don't get the same contracts from the beauty companies or whatever they could get before when they were younger. Meaning that they realize there is a discrimination that is so evident because it's related on the skin type, is related to your wrinkles, that they didn't care about because we're young, and now they're realizing it's a factor of discrimination. It's quite let me say superficial what I'm saying, but I think helps to see there's something is happening, meaning that there are new, let me say, influencers that can start raising the hand, and thanks to their platform of reach, they could probably help accelerate a better understanding of what is discrimination and how to fight it. I think we're nearby a Me Too movement as well, happening in the overall industries. Obviously, entertainment, beauty, fashion probably would be the first one, but in every office we can feel this discrimination. Hence, there is also a need to push forward, not only for the sake of having better narratives and better products that we need. Literally yesterday, L'Oreal launched a new campaign to fight this discrimination. We contributed as Nika to the strategy of that campaign. But and it's important that is happening because we can create a wave that can benefit all of us. But also we should have to do a lot better, a lot more in our everyday life, in our networks, And again, as I was saying before, in the workplace, which the discrimination is not only dangerous for ourselves as individuals, but it's literally harming the business. Organizations are not really taking advantage of the power of knowledge and wisdom, as I was saying before, that we have available, and not making actionable just because there is discrimination. Oh, you're too old to do this thing. That's a classic sentence that we hear every day.
Yeah. So let's expand on that a little bit because a number of episodes ago on this program, we actually had somebody who was on the program to talk about leadership, and it was really focused on the next generation of leaders and what we need to do to get them the skills that they need. And what we talked about in that program was the gap that there used to be a long process of mentorship. You'd have people who were in the executive seats, oftentimes having 5 to 10 year succession plans, identifying some of the great young talent that they knew would take a long time to mature to that senior executive level. There'd have to be some mentoring, some coaching, some knowledge transfer, and just giving them more time in their seats. And that in recent years, because so many of those senior executives stepped away, pursued other things in life, retired, whatever, all of a sudden an entire generation of younger people without the right experience, without the same level of mentorship, were thrust into these roles. And now they're being expected to mentor a generation behind them that they are ill equipped to do that for. Now, that was a conversation in the context of leadership and development of young talent. But do you see that as a big problem for our society as a whole? Governments, nonprofits, businesses, institutions like academic institutions, where mentorship and knowledge from generation to generation was such a core component of keeping the institution going, that if we start losing that piece, we're going to lose part of what makes those places special? To hear the answer to that question, simply click the link in the description of this video to access the full episode. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for videos like this, and subscribe to this show anywhere you get your podcasts.